Hello, it's wilksy15 here, ready to give you the guide that you've been waiting for, especially the UK players. This guide is to help people who want to learn this character to people who want to get a better understanding of her. Yes, I'm known to be one of the best Rosalina Luma players out there in the UK, and obviously the most optimistic one. But anyway, I'm wilksy15 and I'll be your Rosalina and Luma guide. The general strategy for Rosalina is all about spacing and defensive play. Rosalina has the best neutral in the entire game, all because of having Luma as a puppet with so many combinations to work with. A lot of her attacks have very good pokes and can rake damage very easily from her bread and butters. Her juggles are one of the best in the game because of her upsmash strings that can lead to early KOs, as well as keeping opponents off the ground and doing major damage in the process. If you're starting off as a beginner, I highly recommend learning her bread and butters, up air strings, and lastly recovery. The downsides however are she is the 5th lightest character in the game, so she can be easily KO'd. She can be hit very easily due to her big hitbox, and if Luma's gone you have very little options to work with. That's the general overview of her, but let's press on to her move list. Just for a heads up, this move list will be split into two of the two characters, but in some of the clips we'll put the two together to show the synergy and also what's it like without no Luma. Rosalina's 1-3 jab alone is very terrible. I'll just never use it unless I have Luma with me. If I don't have Luma with me, I'll just never use this move. So guys, don't use it if you don't have Luma. Rosalina's multi-jab on its own isn't that particularly good. This is where Luma has to be added in to rake up the damage. However, the multi-jab is actually great against fast fallers like Fox, Sheik, and Captain Falcon. It's a good mechanic to use as a keep away move until you get Luma back. However, when Luma is added into the combination, as you can see, massive amounts of damage just raking like crazy, and all you're doing is holding the A button. This move is really good against barriers as well in certain positions. Just be careful not to use it too much, because if the opponent does barrier and then afterwards just roll out of it, you're going to be heavily punished for it. Just use it now and again, and it's also a really good bread and butter move, and practically one of the best bread and butter moves in the entire game. Rosalina's dash attack is one of the best dash attacks in the entire game. Not only does it come out quick, it also has multiple hits, whereas Rosalina does 2 hits, with Luma doing the extra third. The only problem with this move however is it has huge amounts of end lag, so if you miss your opponent completely or your opponent just shields and reacts to it as it's coming out, they get a free reward for it, and you get the massive burden of a heavy punish. When doing this move, only use it really when your opponent's shield is practically low, or if your opponent is trying to get back down to the ground again on reaction. Rosalina's side tilt is basically used as a sweep. It doesn't have any KO or knockback potential, but if your opponent's close to you, it's more of just a reaction move. With Luma as the second arm, it does help to keep opponents even more further away. Rosalina's up tilt is where she fires a halo above her head. This move is very unique in the game, but there's one massive problem with it. The opponent has to be above you. If the opponent's not above you and right in front of you, they're not going to get hit by this whatsoever. I only really use this move when I grab my opponent and do an up throw to up tilt. But I also do this move on platforms. It's very good at pressuring barriers when an opponent is on a platform. Once the barrier is very low, eventually my up tilt will strike right through it. So mainly use this move when opponents are above your head. Also, it can be a lot of aerials in the game, but don't go too crazy with it because up air is a lot better than this up tilt. Rosalina's down tilt is one of the best poking tools in her arsenal. It's a good keep away move as well. If Luma is added in however as the extended arm, more knockback and more damage is added in even further. When I use this move a lot is because basically it comes out really quick. It's really hard to react to as well, and it's also good for ledge pressuring tools. So try and use this move as much as you can, especially when people are near the ledge on high percents, as of course you want to keep them away from which you want to have the ultimate defense, don't you? Rosalina's forward smash, it has decent amount of damage as well as knockback. The only problem sometimes with it is if only Rosalina is doing it. As you can see, the hitbox isn't that very good and doesn't have that much range. However, when we put Luma in together with it, as you can see, Luma has so much reach and it does quite a bit of damage, as well as the knockback is massively increased. The only problems with forward smash is it does have some startup and does have some massive amounts of end lag. So throw it out now and again, but don't do it when opponent's very close to you and they can react to it. It's also a good ledge pressuring tool because it can be fired in 3 different directions: horizontal, diagonal up, as well as diagonal down. You sometimes might get that 2 frame on the opponent as they're trying to recover to the ledge as well as a bonus. So just use it as a good poking tool and throw it out now and again, but don't do it when opponents are close, so remember that one. Rosalina's up smash is one of her killable smash attacks that she has going. Not only does it come out quick, it also does a fair amount of damage as well as knockback. It also has invincibility frames as well, but only above her shoulders. It's not like Mario's and Luigi's where they're completely invincible when they do theirs. Also, to take consideration to this as well, they also can hit some characters from behind. However, if combined with Luma, wow, the hitbox, the damage and the knockback is insane. You can use it for whiffs, catching opponents as they try to get back onto the stage, or on reaction as they try to do an aerial. As we say in the UK, we call it the L'Oreal, because as Cheryl Cole would say,
we're so worth it.
Rosalina's down smash has got to be one of the best down smashes in the game. Not only does it come out quick, it also doesn't have much end lag either. But if you look at Luma carefully when Rosalina does hers, it also does it in the opposite direction. As you can see, the reason it does it in the opposite direction is to cause some sandwich ping pong maneuvers so it can get extra damage as well as combos. It can hugely throw the opponent off once they see this happening to them and try to get out of it. So try and use this in many situations where opponents are between you, or if opponents try to roll constantly as trying to get away from Luma. Rosalina's forward throw isn't that particularly good. I only mainly use this to throw my opponents off when they're trying to recover from near the ledge. You could do it maybe from 0% and do some combo extensions, but down throw and up throw are a lot better for that anyway. Rosalina's back throw does has its uses. Of course it's not used for KOs due to how much knockback it does, but mainly for its animation. When you're trying to get Luma back and watching the clock, and as you grab your opponent, you can use the back throw as a stall tactic, so that you can get Luma a lot more quicker. You can basically use the back throw to combo with forward air, but that's basically really on low percents. So if you don't have Luma and you grab the opponent, it's really best to use back throw. Rosalina's up throw is best used at 0 to 15%. As you throw your opponent up into the air, you can combo them with up tilt. As you do that, you could go for some up air strings, but there is one more throw that we haven't gone through yet, which I think is the best optimal throw for damage as well as combo strings with up air. Rosalina's down throw has got to be the best throw in her arsenal. It just leads to massive amounts of damage and combo extensions. As you keep up airing the opponent after the throw, it's up to your opponent to get back down to the ground again. The massive annoyance for your opponent is when you catch them and you just keep pressing up air, as all you did was a down throw and all you're doing now is keeping the opponent off the ground. Do this as much as possible when you get the grab. Just trust me, it's a lot better than anything else. Rosalina's neutral beat is Luma shot. This is where Luma gets shot forwards at the opponent. However, if it's charged all the way, it does massive amounts of damage and knockback. You can use this as a panic button when opponents are coming too close to you, or you just fire Luma out to get some stage control. When Luma is shot out, you can press B again to call Luma back. When calling Luma back, it does also have a wind hitbox, but I don't use it. Rosalina's side beat is star beats. These honey stars tasting treats are flung at the opponent, causing quite a bit of damage. This is a good thing for poking tools as well as putting some pressure on the opponent's shield. Just be it as a reminder, if you don't have Luma, the star beats will not come out. When doing star bits, it also can lead to some 50-50 scenarios when your opponent gets hit, but it depends on their reaction and what they're going to do next. Rosalina players don't really use this technique a lot, and really star bits is really useful. It can't be deflected, it can't be absorbed, and basically it's just a really good poking tool. So try to use this as often as you can, but not all the time, because of course if your opponent reacts to it on shield, they can still pressure you. Rosalina's down B is gravitational pull. This is where projectiles thrown at her either get absorbed and disappear, or drawn close to her. This move is hated by villagers, links and rob players, as everything they throw is yours, and if they get too close to you, they will get hit by their own absorbed projectile. But finesse players, well, all you can do is watch them fall to your death as your PK Thunder is gone. Also, no matter how many times you throw the projectile out or how fast it is, it just gets absorbed every single time. Rosalina up B is Launch Star. Launch Star allows you to move in any angle of the up B of your direction. For example, if I press up B and hold forwards, I'll go into a forward arc shape, or if I wanted to go horizontal up, I press up B and hold backwards. What's good about up B is it can be, like I said, angled in any direction that you like. Plus, you can move to the opposite direction instead of going forwards. But of course, when compressing up B and trying to angle yourself for beginners, it can become very difficult. But once you've mastered it down, eventually you can then get the right angles that you want in battle. Like I said, the only problem with this animation is it doesn't have a hitbox, meaning that you are very vulnerable when you're trying to go back to the ledge or just tumbling back to the ground. Luma can still do his aerial animations as you're tumbling down with your input, but that doesn't mean you're protected, as your opponent can still get you either way. So keep your opponent guessing with your up B and try to get to the stage as carefully as you can. Rosalina's Nair is one of her bread and butters, and you should go absolutely crazy with it. Why? Well, because it has multiple hitboxes, as well as the fact it comes out quick and it has very little ending lag as you hit the ground. As you see, Rosalina on her own is not very good, but with Luma it just has so much hitbox and multiple hits as you're going across. This can lead to combo extensions like to grab, or maybe doing a dash attack in between. So go crazy with it and just keep your opponent pressured as you're doing it. Rosalina's Bear is a really good poking tool. What's good about it is it causes quite a bit of damage along with Luma, as well as Luma having the knockback it's needed for. When using Bear, it can also be good for shimming around your opponent's shield. For example, most opponents try and block your aerials and then try to grab you after the aerial has been done, but sometimes in some circumstances, if you can get it right, is you're right behind your opponent, so your opponent tries to grab animation and suddenly, whoa, I've missed, and then you can get them back. So bear as much as you can with Rosalina and get poking at their shields. Rosalina's dare is where she fires a projectile halo ring down below her opponent. This move can be good if your opponent is trying to do up airs against you as you're trying to get back down. Its uses can be also for meteor spikes. However, the spike is pretty soft and not really like Mario's and Ganondorf's, but it's still a use either way. Luma's down air is a lot better than Rosalina's down air, so it's best to use it with Luma close to you, as it has huge amounts of knockback, which we'll get to later. Rosalina's Fair isn't that particularly good. I don't really use it that much because of the fact that it has so much end lag. And any time I ever use Fair is basically on ledge recovery as a surprise or just as a one-off. Nair is just a lot better and has a lot more utility when it comes to knockback as well as damage. So don't use it too much and just use it basically when opponents are on a platform. Rosalina's up air has got to be one of the most ridiculous bread and butter up airs in the game. Not only does it have two hits where Luma hits as well as Rosalina's halo hits the opponent, you can keep the opponent up into the air forever. Of course, it's up to the opponent to get the air dodge read and try to get back down to the ground again, but that's up to them. With you can spam this move to your heart's desire as your opponent is in the air. So keep spamming and see if you can get that cheap KO that everyone hates. Now that we've done Rosalina's moveset, it's now time to move to Luma's. Just to give you the heads up, we're going to skip dash attack, down tilt and all of Luma's smash attacks because we've already gone through them already. Luma is the opposite to Rosalina. Luma does massive amounts of knockback on her moves, whereas she does little damage between them, hence why it's called the opposites between each other. What's good about Luma is she can also be a punching bag, allowing you to basically for the opponent to hit Luma while Rosalina can then be an annoyance as well as to catch the opponent out. But don't do this method too much because you still want Luma to be alive at all costs. Luma can endure 50% of the damage dealt at her. When you hear a that means Luma's now dead and you have to wait 13 seconds for a new Luma to appear. Luma does in fact share rage mode with Rosalina, so hence why you can get those sneaky up air strings from 0 to deaths. The only problem at the moment, a lot of people think it's easy to micromanage Luma. Really, it isn't. So a lot of the characters in the game can get rid of Luma very quickly, like Sheik, Cloud and even Zero Suit Samus. So Luma management in some matchups is very important. So try to keep Luma safe as much as you can, as well as the fact that to micromanage the damage that she's going to take for Rosalina to get those opportunities to get the damage that she would need. But anyway, let's get to Luma's move list. Luma's 1-2-3 jab alone is a lot better than Rosalina's. However, if you put the two together, it causes a lot of damage and flicks the opponents into the air on the third hit. As your opponent's into the air, this leads to your up air strings and allows the bread and butter to keep going over and over and over again. What's good about this move is it can also kill them very high percent, which puts the panic button onto the opponents when they're on very high percents themselves, knowing that if they approach wrongly, all you have to do is press 1, 2, 3 and it's all over. Luma's forward tilt alone isn't very good. It has an awkward hitbox as well as the hitbox being very low. As you can see, it's going through Samus's legs quite a few times. It can lead to some ping pong maneuvers, but I wouldn't recommend using it. I would stick with the down tilt to be fair when it comes to Luma fighting the opponent alone. Luma's up tilt, or the famous Shoryuken, has huge amounts of knockback. It's a good move to use when the opponent doesn't expect it, especially when the opponent is grabbing you. I use this move quite a bit as well when opponent in grab, or if I get hit by something and Luma's still on the ground. Try and use this as much as you can, but at the right time however. When Luma's on his own, I wouldn't always use it for combat. I mainly use it to avoid things from projectiles, from dash attacks. Luma's now is practically unbeatable. It just comes out so quick and it has 2 hits to go with it. It gives the kick with Rosalina's net it deserves and gives out the multiple hitboxes all around. You can also use Nair when you're right in front of the opponent near the ledge when they're on a very high percent due to how quick it just comes out, especially for ledge pressuring mechanics. What's good about Nair is it can also be comboed with 1-2 jab into Nair, allowing you to KO opponents when they're right near the ledge. As we already know, Luma's up air has huge amounts of knockback. However, when doing it alone, it's a bit like throwing the opponent over your head and towards Rosalina, depending on where Luma is actually facing. It can be good in some scenarios to throw your opponent up into the air, where Luma's doing it alone, allowing Rosalina to get the catch and cross it up. However, it can be good for dodging things if you're duking it out one-on-one as Luma versus the opponent, whereas Rosalina is staying back with the remote control. Luma's down air has a lot of knockback and is probably one of the most damaging moves in the entire game. Not only does it have lots of knockback, it can throw your opponent right off when they let go of shield when they're near the ledge. What's good about this move is if it's combined with Rosalina's, it does put a lot of pressure on people's shields when they least expect it. Or if you're careful watching your opponent's shield and it's very low, you could get that down air that you deserve and get that early kill when they're near the ledge. The Buzz uses this stomp a lot of the time in his matches. I'm not surprised to how much it does on barrier, let alone how much knockback it actually does if it does come out. So if your opponent's near the ledge and their shield is practically low, and if you can get the reaction you need, you can get that very early KO, as well as doing it for ledge pressure mechanics as well. Luma's bear is practically the same as Rosalina's, but it goes a bit further than Rosalina's. It has a lot more knockback, but again does less damage, and also is a great tool for using when opponents are trying to recover as well. Though most opponents don't have very good recoveries, this is where your back air is in its use for when it's really needed. Keep spamming back air when your opponent is trying to get back onto the stage, because if you get it right, and unfortunately the opponent can't recover and you get an early lead. Luma's fair is very awkward for beginners. With its huge knockback, Luma flings the opponent into the air, allowing Rosalina to get the cross up with her fair. However, this is way too gimmicky, and if the opponent shields this move, will leave you very vulnerable for a punish. There is a better way to use it for Luma landing, but we'll get to that a bit later in the next part of my guide. Oh, did I mention it can also kill at high percents? That's part 1 of my guide done of Rosalina and Luma. It's time now to move on to part 2, which will be discussing about stage selection, from which stages are best for Rosalina to which stages are not so great for Rosalina. But anyway, if you want to check me out at all of any of the tournaments that are going on, or any updates I've learned about the two characters, check me out on my Twitter page, which is wilksy15's. But that's me and done over for now. It's time to move on to part 2, and I'll see you there.